All right, we're going to record it so that we can put it up on YouTube on my channel. And if you haven't already, please do go out there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's a great thing. I'm always doing product reviews and stuff like that. And any of these that you miss, you can absolutely go back and watch at another time. And this presentation today is sponsored by Dallas Pets Alive. And Janae, do you want to say a few things about Dallas Pets Alive and your group?
I will. Thank you so much for having us, Molly. My name is Janae Bennett, and I am the foster director here with Dallas Pets Alive. We are located out of DFW in Texas, and we were founded in 2012. And I'd love if everyone could pop in the chat where you're viewing from. I'd love to see that. We focus, like I said, on the North Texas area, and we pull from shelters.
Yeah.
We pull cats and kittens from shelters, Dallas, Mesquite, Irving, Garland, all the above. And we started out as only a dog rescue. And then in 2015, someone convinced our executive director that there was 6 cats, a mama cat and her 5 kittens that needed to join the program. And ever since then, our cat fosters have really taken off, and we realized that our cat fosters specifically needed some behavior support, and our team and our volunteers needed to learn more about cats since switching from a dog rescue to a all animal rescue. And ever since then, in 2020, we've increased our behavior support to our cat fosters as well. And that's how we've gotten connected with the lovely Molly.
And it's been fun. Thank you. You guys did some amazing adoptions, it looked like this past weekend, right? Cat adoptions.
We did. We now have a monthly Catter Day. And this last Catter Day, we had 2 cats adopted on site at our little space that we have here at a little local brewery.
Awesome.
Just our one day a month that we focus on cats, and we say no dogs allowed.
We like that. We like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into this. This is an interesting topic for sure. So today we're going to talk about catifying your space and keeping cats off certain things. And I really think that this was suggested by someone who attended. I don't remember exactly who it was. I'm sorry, but someone who had attended one of our previous webinars. And I think it should have been, how do we keep cats off certain things? Because I think that's really what you want to know. But we'll get to that for sure. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a certified behavior specialist, cat behavior specialist, and I kind of work in 2 areas. I work with cats that are in homes that are having behaviors that their owners don't like. And I try to make a bunch of resources like Cat Talk Radio and blogs, and I do consultations with people to try to keep those cats in their home, because shelter euthanasia is the #1 cause of death in cats still in the United States. Really sad fact. And so I work with a lot of shelters. We're rolling out a program with VitaCraft. They're the ones that make these awesome lick and lap treats that we use in shelter behavior modification sessions. And they have created a program with me called Feline Right at Home. And so I work with behavior cats both in and out of the shelters. So there's a lot of resources there. Check out Cat Talk Radio. Like I said, check out our YouTube channel. Lots and lots of resources for you. So today's agenda: how to catify your environment and still keep cats off certain things. So I think we got to start with what is catifying. Now, we did a webinar recently on enrichment, which is kind of the same thing. So I'm going to move through that relatively quickly. And if you want more in-depth on how to catify your environment, go back and watch that enrichment webinar. And again, it's on our YouTube channel. So we'll talk about the benefits of it. Why do we do it? How to do it? And here's a big question I think you want to know is, does it spoil your cat? If I catify my environment, if I give my cat everything it could possibly want or need, is it going to become a spoiled brat? We'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about what the problematic opportunities are, meaning, so now that we've catified, what are some of the things your cat could do or might do that you're not going to like because of it? And then why do cats do what they shouldn't? Like, you shouldn't be climbing on top of my counters. Why do they do those things? And then reprimanding response. How does a cat respond to us reprimanding it? And then mitigating unwanted behaviors. I have the secret 3-step formula. And then I'll give you some examples of that, of those 3 steps. And that's where a lot of those links that didn't go through come into play that I'll put in at the end when we're done, so you have it. So let's start with, what is catifying your environment? So there's 3 things, basically. This is about modifying and enriching your living space and the cat's living space, right? To better accommodate the instincts and your cat's natural behaviors. So it means that you're creating a stimulating, cat-friendly environment, and that's going to promote both physical and mental well-being for your cat. And we're providing opportunities for exercise and exploration and mental stimulation, and then also giving them safe places for relaxation and retreat. All right, because they don't live outside, they live indoors with us. And so they're not getting a lot of that normal mental stimulation and exploration and exercise. Even though cats don't need a lot of exercise, they get it through exploration and the other things that they do. And why do we need to be indulging these natural behaviors and instincts? It's because, they really aren't all that different from their wildcat ancestors. They still have a 98% DNA link to their wildcat ancestors. They haven't changed all that much, and they haven't evolved all that much. So what they need out there as a wildcat, they need in here in your home. So again, what are the benefits of catification? It's going to enhance your cat's overall well-being. It's going to reduce stress and anxiety. And that's really important, because stress and anxiety, especially chronic stress and anxiety, leads to all kinds of diseases. It promotes exercise and mental stimulation. Strengthens your bond with your cat. That's a huge one. Probably should have put that first on the list. And just leads to a happier and healthier feline companion. And we all know when our cat's not happy or healthy, mentally or physically, they can be not fun to live with. So there's a lot of good reasons why we want to catify our environment. So let's talk about how to do it. And again, I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, because we went through a lot of this in that enrichment webinar. So, catifying is basically making your home a tiny playground for a little miniature wild lion in your house. Think of it like that. And there's different areas, right? There's physical enrichment, and there's actually litter box enrichment, and we'll talk about all those. So physical enrichment, what we mean by that is a routine. That's one of the first things that your cat relies on to catify their environment. Simple thing you can do, and it doesn't cause them really any problematic behaviors. Make sure you're feeding them at the same time, playing with them at the same time. All of your interactions need to be on a precise time. And you're liable to see more of Pico tonight than you normally do, because one of his many meals is fed at 5 o'clock, and it's 5, and I did not feed him before we started. And I have Lick and Lap in my pocket, and he likes that as well. So you may be seeing a lot of him in my face tonight, more than normal, because his routine. He also has a play routine. His daddy plays with him every night after dinner, and he comes and looks for him and expects it. And that makes him know that his environment is predictable, so he feels safe and secure here. We also need to provide them safe, quiet, comfortable places to rest. We have, Dewey was making fun of me the other day because I think we counted up, 12 or 13 cat beds that Pico has around our house. We have one cat and 13 cat beds. Some are way up high on the walls. They're in front of windows, under our bed for when he really wants to get out of the way. There's like 3 in my office, which you'll see later on in the presentation. So lots and lots of safe, quiet, comfortable places to rest. Cats don't like to sleep in the middle of everything, right? Because they're afraid something's going to get them. They want to be kind of out of the way and still be able to see things. In fact, I just did a Cat Talk Radio podcast that'll be coming out next week, I think, on feng shui for cats. It talks all about bed placement to make your home feng shui for your cat. So check that out. They need high places to climb and places to perch and bridges and walkways and all kinds of things. I put this picture out here because it's really kind of touches on all this. It's got a little cave, it's got beds on top, it's got little steps and places to walk. It's an actually really nice little cat home room there. They need scratching and clawing options, right? That's not an option for a cat. They've got to use that for scent marking. They need lots of space, which means don't overcrowd your cat. Your cat by nature is a solitary species. They've evolved as a solitary species. And so cohabitating with another cat, while it's possible, and they do develop very deep social relationships with other cats, remember that their inherent nature is really to be alone, and they need lots of space. So if you live in a little tiny efficiency apartment, maybe having 5 cats is not in the best interest of the cats. So remember, lots of space is very important. And options and choices. That means multiple litter boxes, things like that, multiple scratching opportunities, multiple climbing opportunities. They need lots of stuff. Now, let's talk about the litter boxes, because cats see their bathroom, right, their elimination space, as a resource. In the wild, they're going to go like in soft leaves or sandy places or things like that. And in your home, they're going to go in the litter box, hopefully, right? So that's a resource, and a very important resource, because the cats also place their scent, their primary scent, their urine and feces, in the litter boxes. And so it is a territorial marking place. And so it's very important to them. They need to be large. They need to be 1.5 times the length of your biggest cat that's living with you. They need to be open, because a closed litter box not only intensifies the ammonia particles in the air, but the cat now can't see who's coming. And that can really cause a lot of distress for a cat. It doesn't want to think that another cat in the household is going to ambush it, or that anything is going to get it when it comes out. So they need to be open. You need to have one more than the number of cats. Like, I have 1 cat, I have 2 boxes. They need to be spread out. They can't all be like in the one utility room. They need to be spread throughout the house. And this is really important in a multi-cat household, so that there's no bullying going on and causing stress in their cats. Like, I gotta pee really bad. How am I gonna get to the litter box? Fluffy over there is laying on the floor and blocking the pathway again. And then they'll turn around and go somewhere else that's a lot easier to access. So they need to be in different parts of the home. Unscented, sandy litter is more natural to them. And clean. Cats do not like a dirty litter box. So I always say that if you can see If there's not a big enough area in that litter box that's not soiled for the cat to go in, step around, dig a fresh hole, turn around and go in it, and then cover it up, it's likely not going to go in there because they don't like to step on stuff, that nasty stuff. They don't like it either. So clean it out. Cleaning it also gives you an opportunity to monitor, how many times they're going. I mean, that's real important to watch too. Is their urine, excessive? Is it less? Have they stopped going? So very important. Cleaning the litter box is good for both of you. So another area of catifying your home is behavior, right? So they need scenting opportunities. And by that, I mean like corner combs, those combs you can stick on the corners and they rub like they do the corners of your house anyway. And they're making scent there. Scratching posts, so they have scent glands between their feet. They need tall scratching posts to scent. Chewing, it's a natural behavior because when cats in the wild catch prey, they're gnawing and chewing on bones and the prey, and they don't really get the option to do that in our house very often. So give them opportunities to chew through silver vine sticks. You can get, I use freeze-dried pheasant necks, things like that are both treats and safe gnawing opportunities. Prey play. My gosh, this is so important. In the wild, they're going to spend 6 hours a day playing. I mean, I'm not playing, hunting. And when we keep them indoors, they don't get to do that. So it's real important. I told you that Dewey has his routine. We have a fishing pole that we started selling on our website. They're actual, kid fishing poles so that the line doesn't tangle. And oh my gosh, it's fun. I think Dewey has as much fun playing with him as Pico has playing and doing it. You can also hide and seek with your cat. Pico and I do that all the time. I'll come around the corner, I'll look at him, and then I'll duck down behind something so that he has the opportunity to stalk and chase after me. I don't want to encourage any aggressive behaviors, but he knows it's a game. We've been doing it since he's a kitten, and it doesn't get out of hand. A catio, of course, my gosh, that's one of the best things that you can do for your cat. And I put this picture out here. They can watch the birds. They can, explore the outdoors safely without without predators getting them. They get to stalk things. In fact, put a bird feeder right outside the catio. Now, another area of catification is mental stimulation, right? So treat puzzles are real important. And if your cat's not using a treat puzzle now, I suggest starting with this simple one. This has a little door, and you put the treats inside, and then it has a little tab where you can adjust the size of the hole depending on how many treats you want to have come out. And then you lock it in place. I always start them off with this because it's the simplest one. They learn to bat it around, and then they learn it actually pretty quick. And then I like to graduate them to a fishbowl version. So this is weighted on the bottom, and they have to learn to scoop. So on the first one, they learn to nose it or to bat it. And on this one, they actually have to learn how to dig things out. Both of these we sell on our website. And then once they've mastered that, graduate them to a slide version where you put the treats in these little compartments, and they have to learn to move flaps and slides. And then you can graduate them to another version where they learn another trick of lifting these tabs. This is something they don't do in all the others. They have to learn to lift the tab and get the treat out at the same time. And then they have to learn that stepping on this causes more treats to refill. This one took Pico a little while to get, but hide those in the house, right? It's great to put them in areas. Obviously, not the areas you don't want them to get on, but put them in the other areas. Treat puzzles are awesome. You can also play treat toss and chase with them. So take a treat and throw it across the room and watch your cat go running after it. It's good exercise, great mental stimulation. You teach them a challenging skill, right? Clicker training, basically, marker training. And I've done a webinar on that as well. So you'll find that on our YouTube channel of how to clicker train your cat. Cats love to be trained on clickers. It's one of the most mentally stimulating and satisfying things you can actually do for your cat. Refresh your toys regularly. Keep it interesting. The old toys get boring. So take some toys, put them in a Ziploc bag, put some fresh catnip on them, and stick them up in the top of your cupboard. And then get some new toys and put them out and rotate them. You know, a month later, pull the catnip soaked ones out and put the other ones back in. Keep them refreshed. Cats get bored with the same old toys. We do too, if you think about it, really. Walks. That satisfies curiosity for them. Not all cats are going to like going on a walk, and of course, step one is harness and leash training them. We sell these harnesses that have big things of Velcro that go across the chest and the belly. So they're real easy to get on the cat. And I think they kind of act almost like a thunder shirt, but mostly it's very easy, not very stressful or traumatic, trying to get heads through and arms through and things adjusted and buckled. You just simply Velcro it and Velcro it. And they're secure. We use it with Pico all the time, unless he door dashes, of course. And then there's some other things you can do that help for catification. One is nutrition. Nutrition is hugely important. Feeding a cat a species appropriate diet. When cats are lacking essential nutrients that they need, and most of the nutrients that they need are found in meat. So feeding things other than just meat, and I mean bones, organs, that kind of thing. And this isn't a webinar on nutrition. We did one of those, and I encourage you to watch that one as well. But feeding them properly helps them feel better and be not quite so demanding. Small portions fed frequently. You know, interestingly enough, earlier today, I recorded a Cat Talk Radio interview with Dr. Brian Hurley, and the topic was fatty liver syndrome. And fatty liver syndrome is where the liver gets too much fat in it. And what's happening is the cat stops eating. And so the fat in the cat's body then goes into the liver and causes a life-threatening condition. And so I mentioned to him, I said, you know, I feed Pico 5 times a day, and I know when he's missed a meal. And if cats miss, 24 hours even, it starts to begin to affect their liver. 48 hours can be very serious. So feeding them small portions like they eat in the wild, not only is more species appropriate style of feeding, but it enables you throughout the day to know, did my cat miss its breakfast? Did it not eat lunch? Did it not eat dinner? If you only feed a cat 2 times a day, 12 hours can go by before you figure out you have a problem. So in the wild, they're going to eat 10 to 20 small meals a day. So I don't think you can feed them. You can feed them too much, but I'm not sure you could feed them too frequently as long as their caloric intake is proper. Feed them out of sight of other cats in a quiet location. Don't feed them in a real high traffic area. And it's not in their nature to hunt together or share prey. So if you have multiple cats, just, don't expect them to eat out of those things that have 2 bowls in one dish. Get them their own dish and put one around a corner where they don't have to look at one another. It's a lot less stressful for them. Give them choices, different sensory opportunities. And by that, I mean catnip and silver vine and fresh grasses, cat grasses, obviously, nature sounds in the home, cat TV, things like that. So that's kind of just a very quick recap on how you catify your home. Again, go back and watch that enrichment webinar if you haven't. And that's going to tell you in a lot greater detail how to catify your home, which is basically providing enrichment. Now on to the big question, because I think the real question was, okay, now that we've catified the environment, how do we make our cat not be a brat and stay off certain things? And again, like I said, Pico is going to demonstrate right now about just exactly this. Does catifying spoil your cat? You bet it does. So let's define what's a spoiled cat. I think when we unbundle that term, my cat is spoiled, we're saying that he's demanding attention. They expect to be pampered. They're entitled. They're ignoring you, maybe, right? They're doing what they want when they want. And they're destructive when they don't get what they want, right? So does catifying spoil your cat? The answer to that is really only if you reinforce those behaviors. And we'll talk about more about that in a minute. So what are the problematic opportunities? Don't you love these AI generated pictures here? That cat going wild on the back of a sofa. So some of the problematic opportunities are climbing basically on things other than their stuff, right? And I think this was probably what spurred this whole webinar. Things like your dining room table and counters and stuff like that, top of your kitchen cabinets, clawing your stuff, begging for your food, demanding attention, when you're trying to work and do other things, or when you're trying to do a webinar, as again, you're going to see in a minute, because he's like a shark circling, getting ready to bite my legs to tell me that it's after 5 and I haven't fed him. So why do cats do these things that they shouldn't do? And I guess I'd like to say cats do most of the time, 99.9% of the time, natural to their species behaviors, right? And we go, well, you shouldn't be climbing up there. And they're like, well, I should, because I got to get up high to observe what's going around in my domain. Or I've got to get up high to escape that small child that's visiting, that's shrieking and driving me crazy. So observation and escape from traffic patterns. Curiosity, right? I'm working with a shelter through the Feline Right at Home program, and they have a cat that's in the program that's residing in an employee's office. And one of the questions during our last week's meeting was, well, the cat's always in this tube. It's always in a cubby, and I can't really get her to come out. It's an overstimulated cat, and we're trying to do some clicker training, some skill building with her. They're like, we can't really get her to come out. Can't lure her down. She'll eat the treats, but she won't lure down. So I told them what you have to do is appeal to her curiosity. Get something that's got a good plastic wrap sounding, not this, I don't have anything within reach, but something that's got, like candy or in a plastic bag, and catnip in a plastic bag, that kind of thing, and go sit on the floor with your back to her and rattle that plastic. Here he comes, see? And I said, and just sit there with your back to her. Don't look, rattle in that plastic. Her curiosity will absolutely get the best of her, and she will not be able to stand it. And she'll come out of that cubby and start working with you. So they're curious, right? They want to climb up and see what people are doing and what's going on in different areas. Of course, they're attention seeking, like Pico. He's trying to get my attention because I didn't feed him on time. So that's why he's up here where he shouldn't be bothering me. They're bored. That's why they do act out in some of these behaviors. You haven't played enough with them. They don't have enough mental stimulation or things to do to keep them busy. They're scent marking. That's a very, very important thing. That's not optional for cats. Cats have to be able to scent their territory. They're highly territorial creatures. And so they have to have the opportunity to mark their territory with their pheromones in the side of their face, with the glands between their toes, with their urine and feces. And if you don't give them those opportunities, then they're liable to scent mark in areas that you don't approve of. And lack of proper nutrition. A lot of times cats will, if they're not receiving proper nutrition, that's when pica develops. They start eating things that isn't food, plastic, things like that, chewing on things, demanding food because their bodies are telling them we don't have the right nutrition in our bellies. All right. Does reprimanding cats work? Does punishing your cat work? No, it doesn't. I can absolutely tell you that. So when your cat gets up on things after you've catified your environment, wagging your finger at it or trying to punish it in any way, reprimand it for that natural behavior because it wanted to be up on the counter because it's a high space, is not going to work. It's just going to make you come across as an unpredictable being that they're living with. Now, why doesn't it work? Well, it doesn't work because, as I said, they've evolved as a solitary species. They have no social hierarchy. So they're not used to having a boss. So they're like, you can't be the boss of me, right? They don't have a boss because they need to be in control. This is one of the most important psychological things to understand about cats, right? What we're really doing by catifying our environment is giving cats control and unleashing that inner wildcat nature, right? They need to feel like they're in control. Whether they are or not, we need to make them feel like they are, especially in a shelter setting. That's so, so important and very challenging to do. Now, why do cats need control? Because when they have control, their environment is predictable, kind of like the routines. By establishing a routine in your environment, you are psychologically letting the cat feel like he knows what's going to happen when it's going to happen. He's in control. When things are unpredictable, he feels out of control. So that predictability gives your cat a sense of security. Now, when a cat feels secure in their environment and like they're in control of everything, that builds up their confidence, right? And when a cat is confident, then it gives them the freedom to be who they are, right? Now, that might seem bold and pushy and demanding to us, but it's giving them the freedom to be who they are. So, how do you give them control and still manage their behavior, right? How do we mitigate these unwanted behaviors? And they're only unwanted by us because if the cat's doing it, it's a natural behavior. But that natural behavior is getting in the way of our life. So the first way we do it is obviously positive reinforcement and rewards, right? So basically that means you reward your cat for doing what you want it to do, right? The cat scratches the scratching post instead of the couch. You reward the scratching post scratching. It's simple in theory, more complex to carry out, which is why I'm following up with some examples here of how we can mitigate that behavior. You need to avoid punishment to prevent stress. So if your cat's clawing the back of the sofa and you go over and you're like, stop, and you're yelling and getting all crazy, the cat's just going to go, oh my God, what is wrong with her? because the cat's doing what's natural. It's scenting its territory. It's using its feet scent on the sofa to say, this is my sofa to all you other cats. This is my thing. And that's what it naturally does. It has no earthly idea why you have just wigged out on it. And it now is scared of you because you are now unpredictable, right? So it no longer feels in control of its environment if you are unpredictable. So punishing just leads to stress. Designate specific areas for your cat. Go ahead and give up some of that space and really indulge your cat in the space. We have climbing steps and beds up high and all kinds of stuff. Like I said, 18 beds around our house for Pico. Consider cat gates or barriers if you need to keep your cat out of a certain room, right? So block off what you don't want your cat to have access to within reason. Now, the 3 secret steps to cat behavior modification. Step number 1, you must show the cat what you want it to do instead. So you go, not the back of the sofa, this, not that. You have to have an alternate outlet for the natural behavior. Otherwise, the cat's going to keep doing its natural behavior. So think about it as this, not that. Do this. I want you to do this. So you have to be responsible for coming up with a creative solution and providing whatever this is that's going to be more attractive than that thing or behavior you don't want the cat to do. Then the second step is the positive reinforcement. You have to reward the cat for doing this. Whatever this was, whatever that alternate thing you gave them, when they do it, you got to positively reinforce it consistently. And then you can use deterrence on that. But you cannot use deterrence on that without having done 1 or 2. Otherwise, you're going to have a really unhappy cat because you're just blocking that cat from doing its natural behaviors in the first place. All right. So now let's dive in to some examples here. So climbing, that's something we've provided, climbing things, and the cat's gotten really good at racing up those steps. But now the cat's climbing everywhere. Cat's up on the kitchen counter, goes to the top of the refrigerator, on top of the kitchen cabinets. And now the cat is everywhere, and you don't know how to control it, right? So this, not that, would look like this. So this is my messy office, and Pico would get up here, sit on my desk, touch my face, do all kinds of stuff, sit in front of the monitor so I can't see. So I put a little cat tree and bed right here by my desk. Now you can see right over his shoulder, there is another bed right back there, and there's a third bed on top of the filing cabinet. He has 3 beds within 2 feet, basically, of my desk. So he has lots of options. I want you to do this, not that. When he gets on my desk, the other thing he does is sometimes he'll come up here, he'll walk across my desk, jump up to the file cabinet through this side of the monitor. Well, I don't want that. I want to discourage that. So I reward him for being here. And I try to teach him to come up this way and not this way. So put a cat tree or something like this next to where your cat's constantly getting up. That might be in the kitchen. You might have to create a tall stool so your cat can sit up, preferably a little higher than your kitchen countertops, kind of like, see how this is higher than my desk? So he's really up there in that catbird seat. So put something like this next to where they want to be that you don't want them to be. Create shelves to get them up to high spaces. You don't want them in here on the kitchen in the top of this refrigerator, then say, I want you to do this, not that. You notice how this shelf goes across the whole kitchen area? They can just sit up there and watch you cook. So give them lots of shelves. This is that same house. This is a house in Japan, actually, and you can see how wonderful this is. These all lead to all kinds of little catwalks and shelves in front of windows up here. Get creative, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, you can go to the hardware store and get lumber. You don't have to buy prefab cat shelving. You can absolutely do this yourself. Now then, and there's another one. This is actually a kit that I believe is sold on Wayfair, I think is where this was. It's got really tall posts and all these wall mount things, and you can get all this stuff if you don't want to build it yourself. There's lots of opportunities out there today because there's lots of people selling catification. So lots of stuff. Here's one that somebody built themselves that's really cute. That this little stairwell and put little carpets on the stairwell, and it goes up over this doorway with a continued shelving system. So get creative. Here's another one. I like these floor to ceiling mount because you can put those next to your bookshelves. You can put those next to steps to connect things. These are good, and they're sturdy because they connect to the ceiling as well. Gives them a lot of climbing spaces. And this is an awesome ceiling mount little walkway to between things. So maybe you're okay with your cat climbing up on your bookshelf, which is over here on this side. And then you've got another shelf or steps on this side. So put this as the connector between those two high spaces. And things like this are really important because in a multi-cat household, when you're creating climbing opportunities and beds up high, you don't want to create a dead end. When your cats do have an altercation and one is trying to get away from the other and they climb up to get away, and the other one comes up after it, then it's trapped and cornered. It no longer has choices. And remember that choices are very important for your cat because it makes them feel in control. Now I can get down and run away from the cat on this side. So you need things like this, these little connector walkways, so that you're not creating dead ends. Now, step number 2. Positive reinforcement. How do we positively reinforce the climbing? Well, obviously, hide these treat puzzles up there on those shelves, right? That's a really good thing to do. In fact, Pico's up on his thing. He's got a real high thing. I toss stuff up there to him all the time. I'll toss minnows, things like that. I put treats on that tree that's right next to my computer. Anytime he gets up there, I give him a treat. I'm positively reinforcing, yes, you're on this. Good boy for being on this. Now, deterrence. So remember when I said that punishing your cat didn't work because that just made you a wigged out, crazy, unpredictable person to your cat? Well, that's true. So how do we though? So when we were training Pico, there was one counter, we have an island that the food is prepared on, and I really didn't want him up there. I didn't care that he counter surfed, pick your battles. Like, I don't care, as long as I'm not in the middle of making food, I really don't care that you're up here. But this is the area that we make food. Well, he was pretty persistent because, of course, he couldn't tell the difference from one counter to the other. So I needed to deter him from that. Well, I bought this little thing. And again, I'm going to put links to all of these things in our chat system when we're done. And if you'll send me your email address, if you put your email address in the chat system, then I can also just email you all of these links as well. But what this is, it's not a cat deterrent. You won't find it on Amazon under cat deterrents. It's basically a house alarm, door alarm system. So this little magnetic box, it goes with this unit. I have one right here. It goes with this unit, and it, when it's not connected, then when it's armed, it sets off the alarm. So when you get it, you're going to get these 3 pieces. you throw this little magnetic box away. You're only going to use the sound machine. That's basically what this is. And the remote control key fob, right? So put the sound machine where you don't want the cat to be. And then you have the key fob. The key fob has a lightning bolt on it, and you have it, and you're not even looking. Don't look at the cat. Cat gets up on the counter, and you're just like, I don't see you. And you can hear how loud that is. It is incredibly loud. And then there's an unlock button, so this little lightning bolt button sets it off, and the unlock button turns it off. It's like $16. It's really inexpensive. So you put this where you don't want the cat to be, and you walk around with this, but don't look at the cat because otherwise he'll know that you did it. Now, the problem with this is that it doesn't happen when you're not there. And cats are smart, and they figure out stuff like that. They notice patterns real easy. So in fact, and I know he does because we have a camera, and I'll watch to see where he is. And he'll know that we're about to come home, and he will be sitting up on that island, right? Knowing that that alarm's not going to go off because mom's not here. And so I know he does it. I didn't deter him from doing it 24/7. Just when I'm home, he doesn't do it. I'm okay with that. But here's some other things that you can do that actually work a little more effectively because they work when you're not there. This product is called Sofa Scram, and it also emits a very high-pitched sound like the alarm does. And it's just when it's depressed. And it comes in a couple sizes. It comes in a big long size that would go on a sofa or a countertop. I get the sofa length for the countertops. Battery operated. You flick it on, cat jumps up there, and it's going to go, and the cat will jump back down. Now, I had it on my sofa, and my stepdad, I'd forgotten it was there. Stepdad didn't see it. Black sofa scram pad, and he sits on it and about had a heart attack. So be careful where you put it and people coming over. And then the spikes mat. Now this is carpet runner material. So this is basically a little plastic mat you can get at the hardware store, off Amazon, and it has spikes on one side that are designed to hold onto the carpet and not move. And this is meant to protect the carpet. So it's a carpet protector, right? And they come in different, some of these have about half the spikes that you're seeing on this sample, and the cats doesn't really bother the cats. These are pretty small, pretty sharp, and pretty tight together. So make sure you're getting one that's really tight together. And then there's this one that I have the picture of that's like got a lot of spikes on it. And I have that link for you in the thing. Then there's a thing called SCAT. So this is a motion detected blast of air, basically. So you put this on the counter, and the cat gets up on the counter, and and blows air at him. All right, it's harmless to the cat, but it's going to scare him and going to make him get down. And you can angle it up, down. It's got a lot of really good settings, and it's kind of like a paint can. So the device, buy the device, and then you can get refills for it. It's pretty small. Again, don't ever use deterrents by themselves. Then you're creating a cat that can't find fulfillment in its environment. You always have to provide this and positive reinforcement for using this at the same time that you're utilizing these deterrents. Now let's look at clawing, right? Another thing too, before we go back to, before we leave climbing, is timing. Make sure that, meal prep, put out food puzzles, that kind of thing. It's so important. All right, on the clawing, this, not that. Give them something that they like better than your furniture. Now, this might mean that you have to wrap a cat pole in a similar fabric to your sofa. Let's say there's a chair that this cat really likes. Like we have a friend we stay with in Dallas, and he's an interior decorator, and all of his furniture is real nubby and has texture. Oh, Pico just goes crazy. And of course, he's mortified. And we travel with Pico's scratching pole, which is a sisal rope, and that's what he likes here at home. But when we get to his house, he much prefers that nubby fabric. So in addition to blocking the furniture with a big painter's tarp, I got a thick canvas painter's tarp, covered his furniture, tucked it under. Then I also have a scratching pole with material that is like that furniture that he loves so much. So that's his this, and covering it is his not that. It also may mean that your scratching post isn't tall enough. Common things that cats scratch on are tall, the backs of dining room chairs, the back of your sofa. The reason they're scratching on those tall things is because they're scratching also not only to leave a scent mark, but to get a back stretch for them, which means they got to reach real high. They're full length of their body. So make sure that your scratching poles are attractive. Your this has to be more attractive than that. So it may take some sleuthing to figure out, why do they like that? Positive reinforcement, catnip on them. So important to rub catnip on the things you want them to be on. I put catnip all in those beds that I want him to be on, not on my desk. Now, deterrents that you can use for this. This Miluna has an excellent, and in fact, let me see. Let me just see if this will work. Has an excellent product. It's not double stick tape, right? Let me see if I can make this happen. I have can you guys see? Did you see this window that just popped up, this Amazon window?
No.
Okay, so I probably can't. We'll play it afterwards. I have a product review on this that'll tell you why my leather sofas behind me, you'll see how scratched up they are in the product review. But the double stick tape didn't work for me because it pulled the facing off the leather on my sofa, whereas this product doesn't do that. And it's smooth on the outside and you don't see it. Really, really like this. You don't need pins to put it on. It's just, you can cut it to different sizes and shapes. And I show all of that in that product review. Again, if you send me your email address in the chat, I'll send you a link to all this stuff. And then the spike mats, this is how you would use them. If you don't want your cat to claw the front, you can use those. These come with upholstery screws. So that's what this little pile of white stuff is. Those are little corkscrew type screws. So you can make sure you're holding them in place on the backs of chairs or the sofas. All right, begging this, not that. All right, mostly they're begging for your food, right? Oh, you're eating something that's better than I got. So schedule your meal times so that they're eating at the same time you're eating. Pico usually eats his dinner right before we do, so he's full. He's not hungry anymore. He doesn't care what we're eating. Positively reinforcing. You can teach a cat through clicker training, go to place or down. Pico knows get down, right? And he knows it by this. I don't even have to say it. I just go and he'll get down. And you can teach a cat to go to a specific place and they'll get a reward. So if you're eating dinner, you say, Pico, go to your place. And he goes over there and you toss a treat. So he knows that there is an alternative way to get a reinforcement. If he does this, go over there, then he gets a reward. If he does this, eat his meal, then obviously the meal is the reward. Now, deterrents for this on your dining room table are begging. Same things. Using the air can works well, the spike mats, the remote noise maker, or even that Scat mat works also. So demanding interaction with you, which is a little different than begging, but not much. First thing you have to do is ignore it. So rule number one in cat behavior is ignore the behaviors you don't want and reinforce the behaviors you do want. That's why when we're working with aggressive shelter cats, we don't pay any attention to that aggressive behavior. We don't reward the hissing by going away, because that would just teach them that hissing works. We ignore it. So we're going to show them that isn't working for me. Like Pico biting my legs. It isn't working. He eventually went off and has gotten into one of his 18 beds and gone to sleep, taking a nap till I'm done. So ignore that annoying behavior, whatever it is. Make sure you have a feeding schedule. I feel like this is how many times we feed Pico a day, actually. But feed your cat on a routine, on a schedule, frequent meals, so they're not hungry, so they're not doing those annoying attention-seeking behaviors. Those are usually either boredom or food related. And so by feeding him frequently, he's not really ever super hungry during the day because he eats every 4 to 5 hours. Self-entertainment. Now they're probably not going to want to watch soccer, but that's things like cat TV. Go to YouTube and Google cat TV, search cat TV on YouTube. There's all kinds of birds and squirrels and relaxing music and things like that. So give them something to do. They're bored, so give them something of their own to do. Automatic toys. I just did a product review on an automatic toy. It has a little butterfly that spins around. Things like that are great when you can't be there to entertain them. And watch for patterns in timing or your actions, right? Does your cat demand attention inappropriately at the same time every day or around when you've done something? And if so, that might give you a key to the triggers and a way to stop that. So positive reinforcement would include routine times. There are set routine times that we play with our cats, that we feed our cats. That's positively reinforcing them. So when he comes and begs for you to play with him at 4 and you're not off work yet, then he knows that he gets positively reinforced by getting playtime at 6 when you're finished. Now, deterrence, block access to whatever that area is. You know, if you're working from home, and which is what it usually is, and this is about them interrupting you and demanding interaction when you're busy doing other things, block access to that area. And the counter deterrents that we already talked about, the spikes, mats, that sort of thing, those all work really well also. Now, I want to hear from you guys. What are your cats doing, or what questions you have? And I'll start putting these if I can. So I can't talk and do things at the same time, but I'll try putting these links back in the chat bar for you. So what are your cats doing? Do you have questions for me? No, that answered all your questions? All right, then.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So this is a current foster I recently got. He's the sweetest boy. I have tons of toys for him. He loves playing with his toys. But sometimes when I'm petting him or just playing with him with a toy, he grabs my hand and bites.
Mm-hmm.
How do I... he doesn't bite hard either.
How old is he?
He's about 2.5, I think.
2.5 years. So he's an adult cat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably had some history of playing rough when he was a kitten. You know, that happens a lot where people will like, claw, play, and they think that hands are toys and they get confused. It can also happen if he's afraid, if he's had any trauma or he's a little scared of hands. So I would suggest getting a longer wand toy, putting more distance between your hand and the actual play. In fact, here, let me go get this, show this to you. Because this thing is just amazing. So it's a real, an honest to God fishing pole, but the lure is a cat toy, and it will cast 40, 50 feet. I mean, it's amazing. And we sell these on our store. We saw this at Global Pet Expo. They've just started coming out with them. And that kind of thing makes him go over there, not near your hands. So this, not that, is this that's happening way over there, not here by my hands. Now, and the positive reinforcement is obviously that engagement. Now, if he does happen to bite your hands, the first thing you need to do is ignore it. Put your hands where he can no longer get them, right, out of reach, and just stop play and walk away, go to the other room, take a time out, so that his consequence is, well, that didn't work, play stopped, right? And so if you repeat that enough times, he understands play stopped. But it's better if you don't give him that opportunity to begin with. So make sure you got a nice long wand toy so that the interaction's happening out there, not here. That's common with those cats that haven't been played with properly as kittens.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for fostering. What else you got? Okay, I'm starting to put these links in here in the chat thing. Come on, you guys, surely you have.
I have another question. Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't.
And this is about my personal cats. I have two, and recently my older cat got, he's on a prescription food now. Which he likes. So now I feed my other cat separately in my bedroom. He eats in the kitchen.
Good.
And he wants the food she eats. You know, I don't know, in my head I feel like he's been picking on her more lately, and I feel like it's because he's mad at her because
she gets the good
she's-
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just yeah, I don't know. I mean, he has to be on that food, so, you know.
Yeah. So I would, here's what I would do. First of all, it's great that you're feeding him separate. Try feeding them smaller meals so that they're eating all their food, right? So if you feed him in another room, put him in there with the food, close the door for 30 minutes. Ow, here we go again. Ouch. My leg has become a scratching post. And lock him in that room so he can't get to her food for about 30 minutes. Cats should eat what it's going to eat within a 30-minute period, and then the food should be taken up and you know, not for later. So try to do that. There are timers, food timers. There are timers. One of my product reviews is a timer that activates with the cat's microchip or a tag. So she could have her own, you know, food bowl that only opens for her, and then he gets fed in the other room. But really, if you're feeding small enough portions frequently enough, then they should be done in about 30 minutes. And then she shouldn't, if she's leaving a lot of food after 30 minutes, then it's probably more than she can eat. Their stomachs are real small. So their stomach's about the size of a ping pong ball. Imagine the mass of a ping pong ball compared to what you're feeding in a meal. That's about I'm about to get eaten. You know, 1 to 2 ounces of cat food will fill a ping pong ball. So they get full pretty quickly. So that would be how I would manage that. It's not easy when you got one cat on a special diet. What is his special diet for? What's
Kidney issues.
Okay.
It's early, very early stage, so he's on that. It's almost like a soup.
Yeah.
Soupy. He's on multiple different kidney foods, but I have a dry one, a minced food, and then the soup one to get him more hydrated.
Yeah, definitely. I would, yeah, I'd be careful with how much dry food you feed him, no matter if it's prescription or not. I don't feed any dry food at all. I feel like it dehydrates the cats and really doesn't have the amount of amino acids and meat content in it. And if you didn't watch the nutrition webinar we did, definitely go find that and watch that. That I address prescription foods in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Doug doesn't think I hammered that home hard enough. He thinks I was being too nice on on that webinar, but watch that one. That'll help.
Yeah, I've tried to limit. He's so stubborn and he'll cry for the dry food. So I'm trying to mix it in the wet or
Now-
just add very little.
Yeah.
So,
You can wean them off dry food. In fact, I just did a podcast on transitioning cats from dry to wet food that was really
Okay.
good too. So listen to that. Just be careful. You don't want anybody to go on a hunger strike. You got to do it very, very slow. When things in a cat's environment change, the reason they don't like change is because it makes them feel like they're not in control. Right? Something's new, something's different. I am no longer in control of this situation. And then that gets them all freaky again. So you can't just go, here's all new food, and they like it. You got to go super slow, almost undetectable, little bits at a time. Because if they go on a hunger strike for any length of time, it can cause some serious issues.
Thank you.
Is this why Marvin always throws up when I give him too much food and he eats too fast? Yes, that is why, Caitlin. Dogs, when you listen to this podcast with Dr. Hurley about fatty liver syndrome, we talk about dogs can go days. He said, fatty liver syndrome is unique to cats because cats need to eat frequently and they're obligate carnivores. He says when a patient calls and a dog hadn't eaten in 2 or 3 days, it's like, we can go long periods of time without eating, without it causing any damage to our system. But cats need to eat frequently. In the wild, they'll eat 10 to 20 small meals a day. All right. So if you only feed your cat 2 or 3 times a day, and they need about 220 calories on average, I mean, you need to calculate how much your cat needs, and you need to make sure that you're providing the right amount of food, but divide that amount of food into 4 or 5 servings, because if you only give it to them twice a day, they can't possibly eat that much volume, and they scarf it up because they're worried they're not going to get fed again because there's this huge long length of time between feedings. So when they eat too fast or too much, then they throw up. Those mats, those slow feeder mats for dogs, if you have a cat that eats just too fast, you can feed the wet food in the slow feeder mat to slow it down a little bit. But feeding frequency, smaller portions more frequently is absolutely key, I think, to keeping cats healthy. And there are great timers out there now, food timers with cold packs in them, so that you can put the cold food in and it's got a freezer pack under it, or wet food in there, freezer pack under it. I still add hot water even though it's getting cold by the cold pack. 4 hours later, it opens up. Because I work from home, but I'm not always home. I'm at the shelter all days, a lot of days, and we'll we don't go out of town and leave him without food. But there'll be times where I need to make the breakfast, leave a timer for lunch and dinner, and know that I'll be back before his late night, before we go to bed feeding. But typically, if you feed them breakfast, you work outside the home, you feed them breakfast, you prepare lunch in the food timer to go off 4 to 5 hours later. And then when you come home from work, you feed them, and then you feed them again right before you go to bed. Then they've got about, still at even that, they've got about an 8-hour span, that 6 to 8 hours you're sleeping, that they're going without food. So we also put out a food timer at 3 a.m. with freeze-dried raw in it. That's the only little tiny bit of dry food he gets, and that just gives him something to put on his stomach so that he sleeps, never bothers us. In fact, he'll sleep hours after we do in the morning.
Is that what I need for my cat that wants to eat at 4 a.m. and will just poke me in the face until I get out?
Yes, that's exactly it. Exactly. I have a podcast called Middle of the Night Meowing, and that's what it's all about. That and we need to understand too that 4 a.m. is their active time. They're crepuscular, so they're more active at dawn and dusk. That's when the mice are starting to scurry and the birds are, fluffing up and getting ready to leave the roost for the day. They can hear all that going on and they're excited, and their nature is, yoo-hoo, this is my hunting hour. So if you feed him, like I said, we feed at 3, that way he's asleep when all that starts. And the other thing is when you feed, it starts that cycle of grooming and then sleeping, because all throughout the day, a cat's natural routine is I'm gonna hunt, and I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to kill it, and I'm going to eat it, and then I'm going to groom, take a big bath, and then I'm going to go curl up and take a nap, and then I'm going to get up and hunt and eat and groom and sleep. It's that repetitively over and over throughout the day. So the more that you can facilitate that, the better. And if you go to my website at catbehaviorsolutions.org, on the cover, on the homepage there are blocks, and there's one for resources. There's a cat with sunglasses on. Click on that, and then there's categories of resources. One of them is nutrition. And when you get to that nutrition page, scroll down, and I've got the timers that I use listed there. What does Caitlin say? He also has more frequent wheezing asthma when he's throwing up more, In theory, monitoring the amount of food issue should help with the other issue. It might. I mean, you have to kind of get to the bottom of that wheezing asthma issue. That's going to be important to find out why he's doing that. If it's coughing because he's thrown up, but I would just get him on a really good quality moist food and feed frequently and see if that helps. That would be where I would start. But you shouldn't really be able to hear a cat breathing. Otherwise something's wrong. Good questions. Yeah, she says, this is helpful. I definitely cut back on portions. The vet said it's inflammation. Seems to think they're related, but not totally sure. Yeah, could be. Could also be an allergic reaction to something in the food. So, look at the ingredients real carefully and just make sure, again, you watch that nutrition. So make sure there's no byproducts in there, things like that could cause allergens. Just get a good quality food, small portions, that should help. There's also those cats, gosh, Ed Jameson's wife Dana has Kiwi. You remember Kiwi? And I forget what this is called. If you guys know, somebody chime in and tell me. But Kiwi was a kitten with some sort of syndrome where it couldn't swallow, right? Couldn't eat and swallow. So there are special dishes made that kind of almost hang up on a wall because he has to reach way up high to eat so that it gets past whatever the obstruction is in his throat to eat. So it could be that your cat has a little bit of that, and that when he's eating that it's hard and he's coughing because he's got some obstruction. The Cat Talk Radio that came out yesterday was on how to feed your cat and addressed elevated food bowls. And I think that if you have a cat with some wheezing, asthma type issues, it might help to try an elevated food bowl. And I'll give away the answer to that question that I addressed in the podcast was, I think elevated food bowls are silly for people because I always go back to what does a cat do in the wild? When the cat catches that bird, do you see him taking it over to a log so that it's up higher so he can eat it. It's like, no, they get down on their haunches and they eat their prey off the ground. Why on earth would we elevate their food? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to me. So I think it's a people thing. I'm not quite sure why those things got popular, but I don't think elevated bowls are good, but oh, good. Caitlin says he does have an elevated eating station. That's probably good. And in his case, I would try it, but in general, I think it's silly. And there's lots of other good bowl tips on that podcast too that came out yesterday. Good questions. What else you got? Did you guys see the links in the chats? Okay, good. So those came through. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. And I'll still send them to you. Those who put your emails in there, I'll still send them to you. So you've got them.
What's your favorite automated toy? Because right now I have a single foster kitten. Her siblings got adopted and she is terrorizing me and my old cat. She's bored. She's bored and lonely.
Yes. Yeah. Kittenhood. Yes. The one that I did the product review on is one that you turn on and the little thing goes around and it goes around for 5 minutes and then it stops. And I liked it because Pico liked it and he had fun with it. And he's not usually interested in stuff like that. He's like, eh. But in this case, he was. He caught the butterfly and bit it and whacked at it and he was entertained by it. But what I didn't like about it was I had to go turn on the button, right? I want something that's more motion sensor controlled or random that goes on. So one of the ones that I like, someone bought this for me and I had it in my kitten foster room, is the one that's like a big plastic circular mat that you place on the floor. It's usually yellow. And then it's got a device in the center and an arm and a little thing, and it goes around in a circle. So it's kind of like playing the hands under the sheets game, right? But it's automatic and it goes. And I don't remember if it goes on, it may just go for a while, but that one, the kittens went crazy over. Kittens love that one. So try that one. And then anything that's motion detected, right? And then Cat TV. They love to watch that stuff. The iPad games where the fish are swimming around. Oh, the kittens love that too. So you could set up the iPad with kitten games and just leave them there to play. But yeah, I used to just have things like the fishing pole, while I'm trying to type with his hands. Because yeah, they need constant. There's no in between with kittens, with our foster kittens, right? They're either conked out, dead to the world. You're checking to see if they're breathing, or they're just going everywhere crazy. There's like no in between, like 2-year-olds, right? Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Good. Everybody feel like you learned something?
Yeah,
Good.
this was awesome, Molly. Thank you so much. I think Janae's computer actually died at the last minute, so
Oh no.
it did drop off. But this was really great. Thank you so much.
Good. And thank you everybody for attending. And if you do come up with questions, you think, oh shoot, I should have asked that, just shoot me an email. It's easy. It's molly@catbehaviorsolutions.org or molly@cattalkradio.com. Either one. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody.
you.
Bye-bye. Good to see you all.